So let me ask you, what happens when you try to say no to someone or something? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel selfish? One of the biggest struggles with people who lack self-confidence is they don't know how to say no. And they feel incredibly terrible at even the consideration of saying no. Well, if you think back to the last two videos, why would we struggle saying no? What does that say? Think about it. Where did we learn it's not okay to say no? Childhood, right? We had to say yes to whatever our parents wanted. Otherwise, we were bad kids, right? Everything in our childhood was dictated by our parents. Now, many of those things were, thank God they saved our life from lots of trouble. But many times, for most of us, we had to say yes to our parents' demands at the expense of ourself. Remember yesterday I talked about, the difference between person and personality, or maybe it was 2 days ago. And so in those moments, we lose our person, who we were meant to be. We develop a personality to please our parents. And so when it comes to saying no and claiming ourselves, we feel that guilt. We feel that fear. We feel that selfishness. Well, what's really happening to you in that moment is you're reliving childhood. I don't care if you're 20, 40, 60 years old. Your inability to say no to somebody is you've literally transposed your parent's face onto this person. The person you're afraid of saying no to is mom or dad. It's not the person across from you. So again, everything circles back to childhood stuff. It always does with any struggle in our life, whether it's self-confidence, relationships, our career, your health, all of it goes back to childhood trauma that we need to address. So I want to give you some tips to learn how to start saying no and give yourself permission to do it without the guilt. The first thing to recognize is that no is the single most loving thing you can ever say to anyone. Not yes, because look at our culture. Our culture has taught us, if you love somebody, you have to say yes to everything. Like I call the whole relationship method we've been taught the Kardashian method, right? If you watch the Kardashians, they're like, if he loved me, he'd have my back. He'd support me at all time. Well, that's actually incredibly abusive and not loving, because I'm going to be absurd here, but what if all of a sudden you came home to your husband or wife and said, I kind of decided something. I've decided I want to kill somebody, like every night. Like my life's boring, so I want to start killing somebody. What do you think about that? Like, that's absurd. But according to the model we've all been told, we're supposed to support our partner at all times. Well, that's absurd. Why would we support that? None of us would. But that's what happens is we say yes, these little yeses to things we're not okay. And here's the proof. Here's how you know if saying no is a problem for you and robbing you of your self-confidence. Have you ever said this? Have you ever said, I've done A, B, C, and D for this person, and they wouldn't even do Y for me, right? Like in a relationship. I cooked for him. I cleaned for him. I had sex when he wanted to, and he wouldn't even take out the trash or mow the lawn. Right? He wouldn't even take me out to a nice dinner. Well, do you hear what that says? That says you tried to manipulate him by doing A, B, C, and D to get the lawn mowed, to get the trash taken out. The biggest reasons relationships fail is people say yes to things they want to say no to. Yes is the most manipulative, destructive thing you can ever say in a relationship, and it kills self-confidence. So here's the trick. For the next week, even if it's something you like, say no. Pause. Just say no to it, no matter what. Your first impulse is say no. Then remember video 1, go look at your morals and values, your needs and wants, your negotiables and non-negotiables, and goes, does this really align with me? Is this my person, not my personality trying to please you, but is this my person? My authenticity. If it is, then say yes. Now, if it's something else, many people can't even say no. So I always use the example of a waiter or waitress in a restaurant. The first question they ask you is, would you like a glass of water? Well, say no. Now, I know a lot of waiters and waitresses get upset when I mention that, but think about it. Why are they upset? They chose a career where their job is to do whatever the customer wants. They have no ability to say no, and they're upset about it. Well, what's that tell you about their childhood? They got trained to never say no, and so now they picked a career, and they'll say, oh, well, I was going to college. I had no choice. Well, of course you did. You could have taken a job anywhere when you went through school, but you chose that job. You're reliving that inability to say no in that job. So while I don't condone abusing waiters and waitresses, like, when I had to learn to do this, I would leave big tips. I'd compensate them for me learning how to do this. But if a waiter or waitress gets upset, that tells you what their childhood was like and the trauma they haven't faced. They're in a position where they're constantly upset. They can never say no. So that's the solution. Before you say yes to anything, you think through, does this fit through my morals and values, needs and wants, negotiables and non-negotiables? And here's the next thing. If you ever think you will ever bring it up that you did this thing for them, you better say no, because that's a manipulation. If you ever think you'll resent them for doing this for them, you better say no, because again, that's a manipulation. It's not love. If you ever throw it back in their face, that's screaming at you, oh my God, I should have said no to that. I didn't want to do that. That's the single greatest. Listen to any divorce, any breakup. What do they all break up about? People saying, I did all this stuff and they wouldn't do this for me. That's because people are saying yes to things they want to say no to. They're going against their morals and values, needs and wants, negotiables and non-negotiables. They're living in a personality. They're not living in who they are because they're so desperate for connection. That's a lack of confidence, a lack of self-esteem. All right? So there's 5 days of pretty intense work to develop your self-confidence. I could talk about this topic probably for a month straight, but I think that gives you a lot to chew on. If you need more help with that, especially if you need to learn how to say no, I wrote a whole chapter in my book, Your Journey to Success, The Power of Saying No. Go pick up a copy. It walks you through the complete process and shows you why it's so manipulative, all of us saying yes. Also, the whole process of going back and accepting that our parents were perfectly imperfect and we created a personality to survive childhood and we're not living as the person we were meant to be. It'll show you not only how that developed in you, but more importantly, how to face it and turn it around. And if it's too much, obviously, that's what I help people with. So at any rate, you have a very deep, solid foundation now to build the self-confidence you deserve. And I really hope you choose to do it because, as I said in one of the other videos, we need your greatness. We need to see how wonderful you are in your spirit, in your actions, everything. So I hope you choose to share it with us. We'd love to see it. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Hope you're doing really, really well.